Hello, today I came prepared. I've got these 9 photos from the sleepover and they're almost all exactly the same. It's the same room, the same kids, the same energy. So how do I turn this repetition into a story that actually works? I've pulled out this boho paper that I think goes really nicely with the lace and the kind of leafy decor. And then I've got this paper from the woven textures, which I think will coordinate quite nicely. I've decided that I'm going to do something that I don't usually do, which is a band across the middle full of photos. These photos actually just lend themselves really well to a grid layout. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the papers that I know about. I'm Kerry. Hit subscribe and join the gang if you want to see more layouts that work. We do this every week. I've cut the papers, popped the photos in place. I think because the blue mat is hiding a lot of this paper, I'll gut out this bit in the middle because this is really pretty paper and we can save it. And then I thought we maybe just needed something else to reflect a little bit more of what was in the photos. There's a lot of pine type wood in the photos. So I pulled this paper out from the Country Woods collection from Stampin' Up. And I think that just gives it that little bit of warmth that reflects the photos. The other thing that I've noticed is this picture of the two of them lying down in their tents. I originally made it this size and then I thought, oh no, I need to make a few smaller. But the space that it's in would, a big one would fit. So I'm probably going to reprint that in the bigger size. And then it's just a consistent block across the 2 pages, filling up all the space around the.
So with the help of Copilot, I have come up with a title for this scrapbook page, and it's quite long, so we're going to see how we go fitting things in.
It's going to be Playground Days to Pajama Nights.
I'm thinking I could do the 2 here with these, and then maybe try and do something more scripty.
I've cut the rest of the title out on my silhouette, but I'm trying to match this colour here, which looks black, but it isn't really quite black. It's a dark grey. So I used the darkest grey paper that I had. When I tried it with black, it didn't really work. So now I'm just going to try and darken up this paper and cover up those little white notches that you get from the silhouette. I think I need a new blade for my silhouette actually, so I'm going to have to order that. So I've got here the Hickory Smoke Distress Ink, which is the colour that I've used to ink all the edges of the papers up with. But I might also end up putting some black on. We'll see how we go. This sponge dauber actually is a black sponge dauber, but it hasn't had black ink on it in a few days. So I'm going to just try with this grey ink and see where we end up. If we can ink it up, that will be better. Right, how does that look? That's not bad, is it? If it dries a little bit lighter, I think we'll be pretty much spot on. Okay, so we've got Pajama Nights now. Pajama Nights. There's the little dot for the J. And then we're going to use the 2 from here. I think that works because this is the first picture of the time that Skye and Lucia met each other, and this is one that we took just last week, and then this marking their 10th anniversary of friendship was last summer. So now it's time to think about embellishments, and I've got this sheet of cut aparts that come with the boho kit. I also got out this pumpkin set, which might seem strange at first, but it's got these vine pieces, which I thought actually really mimicked the ivy that they've got around the tents. So I've got a couple of vines, and this is the actually there's more vines and another leaf, so I definitely want to use some of that. I'm not quite sure how yet, but it just seemed too good to miss up. And then this kit did also come with some random bits and pieces of die cuts, which I probably will use some of, so I'll pop them all in my little tray. I'm going to figure out which of these I think work, and I also need to think about where we're going to have our embellishment clusters, because I think we are quite limited to the corners, unless, you know, we possibly could put something here. I think that there's enough blank space in those pictures that we could manage that. That's the only place though, so I'm going to have a think and prepare some embellishments now. I've got almost the embellishments put together now, but I just want to stamp one of the little die cuts with the word friends. Now this is too tiny to try and attempt to hold with the magnets, because the stamp is going to take up most of the width. So what I thought I would do is use a couple of removable glue dots, so we can be sure that it will stay where we put it, because I'm going to stamp it in that smoky grey. I want to be sure we get a good clean impression, so I thought we'd go this way. So, but the platform lid will help us to check that it is straight with the lines, and actually that's pretty darn perfect. I'll take that. So I've rubbed, this is the first time using this stamp, so I've rubbed it on my arm, and we'll see how we go. Sometimes with these archival inks you need a few impressions, and especially because this is grey, it's not particularly juicy grey either. So let's see how we go. That's not bad at all. I'll give it a second coat just for good measure, and all being well, the platform will enable us to put it back down exactly where this first one impression was. There we go. That's all right. So I've popped this little one that we just made here, so now it says the best friends. Got great story here, nothing's put down yet, and this circle with the leaf that was from the kit there. And then these are the rest of the embellishments that I've gathered. So I've got this one, which is from one of the title building sets. I don't remember what it's called, but I'll find out. And it says Sweet Dreams, so I thought that worked quite nicely. And if I put it kind of here, then I'll still have space to put some journaling there. This little card is part of what I cut off from the Exploring Nature kit from Stampin' Up. So the colours work beautifully and the design fits really well. So I'm just going to tuck that in under this wooden strip. And then we've got a little grounding spot to build on. And then these are some various vellum leaves that I have that I thought might be nice to tuck around some things. I've made also these vellum leaves and these little blue leaves from the paper pack that this came from. And then, as I mentioned, I was going to make all this vine type stuff, which I've made there. And then we have got some other little bits and pieces. Probably won't use this, but this might be nice up here, maybe with some things around it. So yes, I'm just going to try and start putting stuff together. I also have these little lace bits, which lace isn't really my thing, but it's kind of perfect for the tents that the girls had that were made out of lace. So I think there's 3 little lace pieces, so we'll probably try and put those into the clusters as well. So I'm going to just go ahead and start trying to arrange things now. So I'm going to put some glue on, so I've got my slide ability. Need to give it a bit of a wiggle, we can. Just going to put it up against it with the plan for this to kind of go over this space where there's not too much for it to bother, and then that can be there. So I think we can stick that down, and then we want to build some things around here. So that might be nice. Actually, I think that would be a waste of that big one. We probably don't want such a big one. That one probably works there. And then something like this down here. Yeah, and then maybe one of the single smaller leaves coming up that way. That looks nice. And then we've got these vellum bits as well. So maybe that going in there. And what I might do is I'll put this down first and I overlap that. That will stick that one down. We got some, oh, they're attaching themselves to each other. Got some space for this one up here. Kind of poking out the top there. And then we've got the little blue sprigs as well. We want it down here. Maybe up. Yeah, I like it that side on that one. And then the blue one we want to pop it somewhere here-ish. So that's all stuck down now. I think we're nearly there. I'm just going to play with some of the vines. There we go. All the vines are stuck down. I'm really pleased with them. I've stuck some gold gems down now. They were the ones that came in the Stampin' Up advent calendar. They're not sticky, so I had to glue them. And I used my pickup tool to attach them all, but I didn't press record, so you didn't get to watch me doing it. And that's how I turned 9 identical photos into a story about a 10-year friendship. Systems work everywhere, even when everything looks the same. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me next Friday for some more layouts that work. Bye bye.